Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina istafa amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam kama kutiba alal ladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun ayyaman ma'dudat. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallam. In the previous sessions, Alhamdulillah, we have been looking at the different du'as which are mentioned in the Quran. Tonight, we will take a break from that sequence and we want to mention a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, a hadith about the Prophet ﷺ and how the Prophet ﷺ would conduct himself in the month of Ramadan. And it comes in a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ used to increase in certain things in this month of Ramadan. And one of them is that the Prophet ﷺ used to abundantly make dua in this month of Ramadan. And a very particular dua, which is a dua for admission into Jannat and dua for salvation from the hellfire. So this is a dua which is not there in the Quran, but the dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to make abundantly in the month of Ramadan, dua for Jannat and emancipation from the hellfire. The Arabic of that dua, and we should make this dua, is that Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannata, that, oh Allah, I ask you for Jannat, wa a'udhu bika minan nar, and I ask you that you save me from the hellfire. Elsewhere, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa rida, that Allah, I ask you for Jannat and for your pleasure. Wa a'udhu bika min sakhatika wan nar, and I seek refuge in your displeasure and from the hellfire. And then there is a simple one if you're not able to memorize these two, then a simple dua is Allahumma ajirni minan nar. Allahumma ajirni minan nar. That, oh Allah, save me from the fire. Oh Allah, save me from the fire. There are many du'as, different du'as, which come in the hadith text. And why is this? Again, this is something that we have to, we should be making these du'as year round. But another thing is that what happens in Ramadan is that the shayateen are chained and the gates of Jahannam are closed and the gates of Jannat are opened. So this is something to reflect about, to think about, to reflect on, that the gates of Jahannam are closed in this month and the gates of Jannat are opened up in this month. So this is not just a symbolic thing. It also means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this month a month of salvation from Jahannam and a month of admission into Jannah. And so because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done that, that's why the Prophet ﷺ used to increase his du'as and specifically make this particular du'a, which is du'a for entry into Jannah, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-Jannah, and for emancipation from the hellfire, wa a'udhu bika minan nar. There is a greater chance that our dua for salvation from hellfire will be accepted in this month, because this is a month of great mercy. And when out of Allah Ta'ala's mercy, Allah Ta'ala has closed the gates of Jahannam, then you can actually make this dua. And we should make this dua in the following way. Think about Ramadan and make this dua that, oh Allah, just like you have closed the gates of Jahannam in this month of Ramadan, oh Allah, I ask you that you close the gates of Jahannam for me in my whole life and close all the pathways that lead to those gates. And just like, Ya Allah, you have opened up all the gates and doors of Jannat in this month of Ramadan, I ask you that you keep them open for me, for my whole life, and guide me to those pathways that will lead me to those doors of Jannat. So this is one thing that the Prophet ﷺ used to increase in this month, increase in making dua for entry into Jannat and emancipation from the hellfire. And we should also try to increase in this particular dua, along with the other duas that we have mentioned before. The second thing that the Prophet ﷺ used to increase in this month, which comes in a Sahih Hadith, Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, Mu'mineen, she narrates that the Prophet ﷺ used to increase in his sadaqah, in his charity, that he used to spend more in voluntary charity in this month than he would ever spend otherwise. And we should again remember that the Prophet ﷺ was very charitable throughout the year, but the charity levels would increase even more in the month of Ramadan. It would be like a wind which would blow and would give anything that would come in its way. The wind gives wind to that. In the similar way, the Prophet ﷺ would spend charity, would give to whomsoever would come in his way, would increase in his voluntary charity in this month. And this is another thing we should try to do. To whatever level, if we are earning, we should try to spend some more in this month. If we are not earning, we are students, still we should try to give something in charity. We should always remember that the Prophet ﷺ, he used to eat very frugally. The Prophet ﷺ was not someone who had a lot of surplus wealth that he would be giving abundance in charity. So we should not in any way feel like that we're an exception. I don't have enough wealth. No, even if you have less wealth, think about the Prophet ﷺ. That the Prophet ﷺ, despite eating very frugally, he would still give. And we can also give money because actually we have money. We have money, and we spend money on so many things of the dunya, on so many things to eat and drink. We could use part of that money in sadaqah. Sadaqah doesn't have to be a large amount. It doesn't need to be thousands of dollars or thousands of rupees, right? Even a small amount, that is also sadaqah. And it's a very good habit to get into in this month of Ramadan, that a person should regularly, secretly, sometimes openly, they should give sadaqah. In fact, both ways are mentioned. Give sadaqah secretly, and sometimes you might need to give sadaqah openly. The normal preferred way is to give sadaqah secretly, such that the right hand gives and the left doesn't know. That's how secretly they used to give. Means that they don't even notice it themselves, so that they don't feel arrogance and pride about it. A person doesn't feel like that I'm a philanthropist. I should have my name on some building. No, not like that, right? Give in such a way that nobody even knows. But there are also cases when a person should give, it's actually better to give openly. And that is if you feel that by giving openly, somebody else might benefit from that. Somebody might see that and they might be encouraged to donate. So the notion of giving sadaqah then is like a dawah, that you're inviting others also to give sadaqah. Somebody might think that, well, if he can donate, why can't I donate? So there should be donation. One should try to increase in their sadaqah. The Prophet ﷺ used to increase in his giving of sadaqah in this month. And again, there is a nisbat, that when you spend money in this month, give in charity, right? Then you're actually meant to feel more compassion. You're meant to feel more compassion about this. And again, it's something which a person can make niyat about, if nothing else, that this was the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Someone can also make that niyat, that, Ya Allah, I'm reviving this sunnah of giving sadaqah in Ramadan. And just like I'm reviving this sunnah in my life, Allah, I ask you that you grant me tawfiq, that I can revive the other sunnahs in my life as well. Right? Giving sadaqah in the month of Ramadan, through the nisbat and the barakah of Ramadan, right? Through the barakah of this sunnah, Allah enable me that I can revive all of the sunnahs in my life. And this might, for some of us, might be a relatively easy sunnah to do amal upon in this month, giving sadaqah, right? So that's the second thing that the Prophet ﷺ used to increase in this month. First was to abundantly make dua for entry into Jannah and salvation from the hellfire. And second was to increase in sadaqah. And the third thing that the Prophet ﷺ used to increase in this month was his ibadat, was his actions, was his act of worships. And the reason for this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet ﷺ, and it's actually a hadith, that Allah ta'ala gives a reward for one fard, for every single nafil act that you perform in this month. Every farz it's transformed into a nafil. And for every nafil is transformed into a farz. And for every farz that you perform in this month, Allah Ta'ala gives the reward of 70 farais. And actually, what Allah Ta'ala is doing here, Allah Ta'ala is not just giving us the reward. He's not just increasing the reward of the ajr. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to help us in our training. It's like a 1 month intensive workshop where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to multiply the reward and also multiply the effect of that ibadah that we do in this month. Like sometimes people go on a 1 month intensive workshop, and then the facilitators, they try to facilitate your success in that workshop. They give you environment, they give you food, good housing, good seminars, good reading material. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing all of that for us in this month of Ramadan. And by multiplying the reward of ibadah, by increasing the effect and the asar of that ibadah. So for example, when we pray salah, what is the real effect of salah? That the salah is supposed to stop us from fahsha and munkar, from evil and immorality, obscenity. That's the effect which salah is supposed to have on our life. So when Allah Ta'ala increases the reward multiplies it by 70 times. 70 times. So what that means is the ability of that one farz salah is 70 times more powerful in keeping you away from the fahsha and the munkar than when you prayed it outside of Ramadan. That's what's happening in Ramadan. Similarly, when you pray nafil, and Allah Ta'ala increases the nafil to the magnitude of a farz. So let's say you pray 20 tarawih. So when you pray 20 tarawih, it's as if you pray 20 faraiz, 20 rakat of farz outside the month of Ramadan, because every nafil is being converted into farz. So that means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is boosting the power that we get in this month by magnifying the power of our ibadat. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing for us, helping us in this month. You know, our problem is that we are not able to change. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us this opportunity through which we can change. When Allah Ta'ala is increasing the reward, if you do one farz, you will get the reward of 70 farz. You will also get the reward, you will also get the qurb of Allah Ta'ala, 70 times the qurb and the closeness of Allah Ta'ala. And what that means is, if you were to pray Jummah outside of Ramadan, Allah Ta'ala will love you for praying Jummah. But if you pray Jummah in Ramadan, you will get 70 times that love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because every ibadah, it's not just about monetary record, the money, the points that you're getting. It's also about the love for Allah, the nearness, the intimacy with Allah. Like in a hadith, Allah Ta'ala mentions, hadith Qudsi, that yataqarrabu ilayya abdi, that my servant, my slave, they get close to me, they draw closer to me when they do things that Allah Ta'ala has mandated for them. So 70 times more love for just one ibadat. And it's not just prayer, it's not just salah or tilawat-e-Quran. It also includes other acts of ibadat in our deen. Means, for example, husbands should be good towards their wife. It includes that. And wives should be good towards their husband. Now, we should have done that anyway. Allah Ta'ala loves the man who is good towards his wife. In fact, there is a hadith about that as well, that the best of you is the one who's the best towards their wife. But in Ramadan, how much love Allah Ta'ala will give you normally? He will multiply it by 70 times if you're good towards your spouse. If you're a good wife, if you're a good husband, a good neighbor, a good child, a good parent. So whether it's hukukullah or it's hukukul ibad, Allah Ta'ala will give us more for doing the same thing. You're doing the same act, but Allah Ta'ala will give you much more, 70 times more. Now, if I told anyone that I'll give you 70 times your salary, 70 times your per month salary, not double your salary, not triple, not 4 times your salary, but 70 times your salary. Right? You would say that, can I work overtime? Can I work extra? Can I work on the weekends? Can I do more shifts? That's how we should be thinking about Ramadan. That, yeah, Allah, you will give me 70 times more. I'm going to work overtime. I'm going to pray Taraweeh. I'm going to read Quran. I'm going to do istighfar, read Salat Tasbih, make dua, make zikr, pray tahajjud. Everything that I've ever heard in my life about deen, I'll try it. I'll give it a shot. That's what you do in Ramadan. You try everything. You Salat Awabin, Salat Chasht, Salat Duha, everything that you've ever heard about. Try everything in Ramadan. Do it in Ramadan. Show it to Allah Ta'ala. That, Ya Allah, you want to give more to me. I want to reciprocate. Allah, if you want to give so much to me, Allah, I also want to take so much from you. This is what real love is. Real love is always, it's two-way. That's what we say in the world, in worldly relationship as well. It's a two-way relationship. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be sending down His extra special like super love on the believers in the month of Ramadan, then you respond by loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala back. When you are this, Allah ta'ala is seeking you out, you try to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out. Yuhibbuhum wa yuhibbunahu. Allah loves them and they love Allah. Many people think that becoming the beloved of Allah, that's the end of Deen of Islam. That's the destination. It's not the end, it's the beginning. It's the beginning. Becoming the beloved of Allah is actually the beginning of Islam. Because the second you take Iman, you actually become the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala says in Quran that Allahu waliyul lazina amanu. Allah is the wali. Allah loves those people who bring Iman. There are other relationships where Allah ta'ala wants us to do amal. But for love, there is no condition. There is no condition. Right? Allah says that I'm going to take you out from all darknesses into light because Allah loves you. يُخْرِجُهُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. Allahu waliyul ladina amanu yukhrijuhum min az-zulumati ila an-nur. That Allah Ta'ala will take you out from the darkness of sin, the darkness of ignorance, the darkness of zulmat, just because these are people who have Iman and Allah loves them. So Allah Ta'ala will take them out from every darkness into nur, into the nur of hidayah, into the nur of guidance, the nur of taqwa, the nur of Quran, the nur of sunnah, the nur of ibadah. And this is what we want to have in Ramadan, that we are already the beloveds of Allah Ta'ala. Ramadan is the month when we should become the lovers of Allah Ta'ala. You make this one-way relationship into a two-way reality, where we are already the beloveds. We just need to love Allah Ta'ala back, become the lovers of Allah. Love Allah more than anything. Love Allah more than everything. Love Allah more than anyone. Love Allah more than everyone. Loving Allah. So these are the feelings that we have to get in this month. And put it very simply, we should try to make Ramadan this year, make Ramadan about feelings, whatever days are left. You already know the actions of Ramadan. You know what you're supposed to do, act. Try to get the feelings of Ramadan, the feelings of love for Allah, the feeling of taqwa, the feeling of intense love, intense yearning for Allah, the feeling of crying in tawbah, the feeling of fear and hope in Allah Ta'ala. Chase those feelings in this month. This is what the month is about. It's right there. It's easy to get these feelings. Outside of Ramadan, it's very difficult. It's harder to get these feelings. But Allah Ta'ala will make it easier to get these feelings in Ramadan. It's a golden chance. It's a golden opportunity. And that's what Allah Ta'ala is saying. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That get taqwa. That get this, the purpose of Ramadan is this la'alla. In fact, even before taqwa, right? The word la'alla. La'alla. This is the hope of Allah. This is Allah Ta'ala who's Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. With the hope, Allah Ta'ala is saying, Allah's hope, that maybe due to the barakah that Allah Ta'ala has placed in this month of Ramadan, people will be able to get taqwa. So this is what Allah Ta'ala is offering to us. That what we want from you is that you become a person of taqwa. And what we should want from Ramadan is, your answer to this question should also be, I want taqwa. I want Jannah. I want wilayah. I want sunnah. I want love with Allah. That's the answer. That's what you should want in Ramadan, not just a schedule and fasting and staying away from food and drink. That's what Allah Ta'ala is offering to us in Ramadan. لَأَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That get taqwa. In fact, what is taqwa? Allah says, إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَهُ إِلَّا الْمُتَّقُونَ. That who are the friends of Allah, the awliya? They're just the people of taqwa. So if Ramadan is the month of taqwa, means, and taqwa equals wilayat, means that Ramadan is the month of wilayah. Ramadan is the month, literally, Ramadan is so much power in it that an ordinary, daily, regular believer can rise up and become the wali of Allah. They can become the friend of Allah in this month of Ramadan. Everyone can become the wali, they can become the friend of Allah. Everyone listening to this talk, everyone, whether they're listening to this talk, everyone those who are not here, any Muslim who doesn't even pray Salah, any Muslim who's just a Ramadan only Muslim, anyone who doesn't even show up in a Ramadan, anyone who just shows up at the Eid and says Eid Mubarak. Allah Ta'ala has put so much power in this month that any person, any believer, this month has so much power that it can transport that person, their iman, their deen, and can raise them up to this rank of becoming a friend of Allah. Every sin can be wiped away in this month of Ramadan. Every single good deed can be adopted in Ramadan. It's just up to us that what do we take out of Ramadan? This is our chance. This is our choice. Some people will take that choice and they will just take nothing other than hunger and thirst from Ramadan. That's it. And some of us, we have already made that choice. Year after year, previous 5 years of our life, 10, 15, 20 years of our life, we're just making that choice of just getting hunger and thirst, nothing more. Whereas Allah Ta'ala is saying the purpose of Ramadan is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Taqwa means closeness to Allah, fear of Allah, love of Allah, always being aware of Allah. The highest form of nobility and izzat one can get is in taqwa. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The highest form of worship one can do is taqwa, that you abstain from sin. And this is the purpose of Ramadan. So we have to view Ramadan like that. And sometimes in our schools, and even in sometimes Islamic schools, teachers, they just dumb it down. They say Ramadan equals month of fasting. Why should we dumb it down? Say Ramadan is a month of taqwa. Ramadan is a month of rahmah. Ramadan is a month of maghfirah. Ramadan is a month of Quran. Ramadan is a month of dua. Ramadan is a month of becoming a beloved of Allah, the lover of Allah, the friend of Allah. That's how we should teach our children. That's how we should teach our children. That's how we should teach ourselves what Ramadan is. Fasting, it's just a means. It's not the end. This is our problem, that we just get stuck in the means. Every year, we just get stuck at the fasting level. We get stuck in the means. We don't reach the end. We don't reach the goal. We don't reach the purpose. We don't reach the maqsad of the month. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put certain features in this month of Ramadan to enable us to reach that goal, which is taqwa. The first feature is definitely fasting. Yes, fasting is a means through which we can get to the goal. And fasting, it's a very big blessing. It's a very big blessing. Right? How? Because taqwa means that you're staying away from the haram, but in fasting, you're leaving the halal for the sake of Allah. You're leaving the halal. So, this is training in taqwa. And then Allah Ta'ala put another feature in Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that Allah Ta'ala chains all the shayateen. Shaitan, they're chained. And they're no longer able to put the waswasa. Allah Ta'ala took care of that as well. And then what is left is our nafs. The second reason we sin is because of our nafs. So Allah Ta'ala gave us fasting to take care of this problem as well. The purpose of fasting, when you stay away from food and drink, is to discipline this nafs, to temper this nafs, to tame this nafs ammara. Inna nafsa la ammaratum bisu. That nafs which commands us to do evil. That nafs, we're supposed to kill this nafs ammara. We're supposed to stop our nafs from falling into these unlawful desires. So again, the purpose of fast is not just to feel hungry, not to feel thirsty. The purpose of fast is that by feeling hungry and thirsty, we are able to control our nafs. And I will also mention one more thing, that some of us, we make a very big mistake in Ramadan, that we undo the effect of the fast. We undo the effect of the fast. What does this mean? That we eat so much from Maghrib to Fajr that actually, instead of taming the nafs and training the nafs and disciplining the nafs, we are feeding the nafs. Yes, there are so many people who actually say this, and they boast about themselves. That they say that in Ramadan, in 24 hours, they eat more calories than they eat outside of Ramadan. And you have these all-you-can-eat deals and fast food and iftar festivals and sehri, going out. This is foolishness, because you're undoing the effect of the fast. You are erasing all the effect of fast. Can you imagine someone who sort of died 17 hours a day, and then he has a splurge 8 hours during the night? Right? We'll say this is not intelligence. Right? So let me explain this, that our body has needs. We have the calorie, and whatever it is, there is a particular amount. If you eat more than that, now where does that food go? It goes to your nafs. Whatever you eat more than your body needs, it's as if you're hand feeding your nafs. And that's why there's a great relationship between overeating and then overindulging, especially in lustful and even other sins. Right? The more you overeat, there is a relationship. There are more such impermissible thoughts and lustful thoughts, and other such thoughts will come to your mind. Allah Ta'ala is trying to break this connection. That's the purpose of fasting. So what that means is that from Maghrib to Fajr, now definitely, of course, you should eat. All of us should eat. But the amount you eat from Maghrib to Fajr should be less than the amount you eat 24 hours outside of Ramadan. And then the effect of fast will happen to you. Then it will be able to tame your nafs. That fasting will discipline your nafs. If you can reduce your food intake for the 24 hours in Ramadan, reduce that compared to the 24 hours outside of Ramadan. If you can do that, then fasting will be able to train you, discipline your nafs. And that's a feature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in this month to help us get taqwa. Right? These are all means, again, to get to that end, to the goal. Shaitan is chained, nafs is tamed by fasting. And we know that the nafs is tamed by fasting because, in fact, there is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, was a young man who came to the Prophet ﷺ and he complained that I cannot control my lustful urges and my glances. And what did the Prophet ﷺ tell him? The Prophet told him to fast. Why? Because if you fast, you will be able to control the urges of your nafs. Right? So the condition is, again, for us, that you cannot overeat from Maghrib to Fajr. If you overeat, you undo the benefit of fast. And then the fasting has zero benefit, literally zero benefit. And that is also what the Prophet ﷺ has said in a Sahih Hadith, that there are some people who will fast in Ramadan and they will get nothing from their fast except for hunger and thirst. They won't get the taming of their nafs, the disciplining of the nafs. So we have to be more wise. We have to be guided by the guidance that we have in our deen. We have to submit to that guidance. Ramadan is a month of training. And, I would suggest that for the remaining days, we are experts when it comes to what we are supposed to do from Fajr to Maghrib. Fajr to Maghrib, I think we're experts about that. We know that. We know what we're supposed to do from Fajr to Maghrib. We fast, we stay away from sins. But we should try in the remaining days to focus on what you do from Maghrib to Fajr. Watch yourself from Maghrib to Fajr. Watch out what you eat. And not just what you eat, but what you do, what you say, what you see, what you hear, how you spend your time. Fix your nights this year. These are the last 10 nights are coming up. Fix your nights. There is so much barakah. So much barakah. There is so much barakah in the fast that you're not sinning from Fajr to Maghrib. People are not sinning from Fajr to Maghrib. So we should, some people even say that, oh, it's Ramadan, we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't even do it outside of Ramadan because our Rabb is Allah Ta'ala, it's not Ramadan. But people are heightened, their sensitivity is there, heightened sensitivity. That I'm fasting, and because I'm fasting, I'm more aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I don't want to go near that sin. So Ramadan actually takes away the sins. Ramadan takes away that heedlessness from our life. We are more aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are in a state of ibadah, you're in a state of zikr. Because, even though, you'll be fasting, and that deep down you're fasting for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. So you are in a state of zikr. So we should try to make the most of this. Make the most of Ramadan. Make the most of Ramadan. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us. That we should try to increase in our ibadah. Try everything. Try everything in Ramadan. Do it in Ramadan. Increase your actions in Ramadan. This is, a person should try to do as much ibadah as possible. And the way to do this is try to free yourself from every other consideration in the last 10 days. If you will have certain things, if you're students, you have to study, or if you're working, maybe you have some work commitments. So take care of those commitments, but there should be nothing else that you do. Just take off from all social activities, sports, entertainment, social recreation, social relations, sports activity. And there's no sports in Ramadan for the seeker of Allah. No time. This is the month for me. I'm getting such an incredible rate from Allah. If somebody told you that I'll give you 70 times your daily wages, 70 times your monthly salary, you're not going to go out and play cricket all night. No way, right? 70 times just for staying up and worshipping Allah. So this is how we think about the dunya. And this is what Allah Ta'ala is saying to us, right? About our deen. So we should view this like my season. So this is my season, and the season is about to end. But before the season ends, the peak of this season is coming. The pinnacle is coming, when the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be at its maximum. So we should think that this is now my season, a season for worship, a season for ibadat, and I have to do the maximum amount of amal that I can do in the remaining days. I have to boost myself. Think of it like the way you study for the final week, final exams, right? One night before. They're so busy studying for the final exam that they are completely oblivious of everything around them. That's how we should treat these last few days. And it's incredible, we have this time. One should just be oblivious to every other thing. Just focus on your relationship with Allah Ta'ala. Everyone around you should know that, was Ramadan hai. They should know that about you, that they shouldn't even come near you in Ramadan. That this person has some craze that's come over him in Ramadan. They're either just find him in the masjid, or reading Quran, or praying salah. They're doing zikr of Allah Ta'ala. They're making istighfar, making dua. They're studying ilm. They're sitting in a gathering of ilm. They're gone this month. They're gone. That's how we should behave in this month, because it befits that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put so much barakah in this month, so much ajr, so much reward, we should respond. We should reciprocate. Allah ta'ala is initiating everything. Allah ta'ala, His rahmat is coming on us. Allah ta'ala's barakat are coming upon us. His fazl is coming upon us. Allah ta'ala has initiated Ramadan and initiated all of these things in Ramadan. All we need to do is just accept it. We just need to absorb it. We just have to go along with the game plan of Allah ta'ala. Allah ta'ala is initiating everything, sending everything, bestowing everything upon us. We just need to take it, hold it, absorb it, imbibe it. But on the other hand, if we reject it and if we spurn it, then Allah Ta'ala is saying in Quran that Ya ayyuhal insan ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. Oh insan, what has deceived you concerning your generous Lord? What more can Allah Ta'ala have done to entice you? Why is it that you have yet to fall in love with Allah Ta'ala? Why is it that you have yet to love worshipping Him? What more can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? There is nothing more. Right? Allah Ta'ala has gone to an extreme in his attribute and the way He treats us in this month of Ramadan. Maximum mercy, maximum barakah, maximum power. If only we can become 1%, we can be as, become intent on Allah, as Allah Ta'ala is intent over us, we can become the wali of Allah Ta'ala overnight. So this is the third thing that the Prophet ﷺ would increase in this month, in his ibadat. And anything and everything. Everything you should try to do more in this month. Be more regular in your jama'at. Pray your sunnahs more regularly. Pray more nawafil. Read more Quran. Make more istighfar. Make more khidmat of deen. There are people like that even today, who last year one of our teachers was mentioning that there are people who spend the last 10 days in such a way that they finish one Quran every day. 10 days, they finish 10 Qurans. There are other people who recite 70,000 times, they recite the kalima tayyibah, la ilaha illallah, 70,000 times every single day. And when we begin to compare ourselves with the ibadah that they are doing, it seems as if we have done nothing. And these are also ordinary people, people like us. Young people who are married, many of them have children, they're professionals, working professionals, some of them are students, have family responsibilities, job responsibilities, other issues in their life. They are just like us. But they're earning Ramadan like this. Earning Ramadan. So we should also think like that. That this is the month where I have to act. And spend more time on the musalla. And that's what it's worked down to. Your Quran, your dua, your salah, all of this is tied with your janamaz, which is the musalla. Have a taluk with the musalla. Don't be a stranger to your janamaz. This is also the sunnah of the Sahaba, that they used to spend a lot of time on the musalla. They were people of the musalla. That was their identity. That was the real home. For us, our prayer mat is just a random thing, right? Sometimes we sit on it, sometimes we stand on it. It's not the asal or the reality of our life. We have other identities. If you're a student in university, then you think that my real asal, my real essence of the life is my laboratory, or it's your classroom, or it's your office. If you're a professor, then you think like that my office is my main life, is my main asal. it's my research, it's my teaching. No, Allah Ta'ala is teaching us that the asl of a believer, the asl of a mu'min has to be their deen. Deen. Everything else is ghair asli. It's not the real, it's not the essential thing. The essential thing is our deen. And that's what, when you enter the janamaz or the prayer mat or the musalla or the masjid, person should feel like we have entered home. This is where I belong. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, that al-mu'minu fil masjid ka samaka fil ma. That a mu'min in a masjid is like a fish in water. Fish in water. Me and you, we are like the fish who's spending 11 months out of the water. So this is the month to return to the water, to return back to our asal, where we belong, to return back to our deen. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable all of us that we can also increase in these three things. May Allah ta'ala enable all of us to increase in our sadaqah, to increase in our du'as, generally and specifically in our du'as for Jannat and emancipation from Jahannam. And may Allah ta'ala also enable us that we can all increase in our ibadat, in our acts of worship, in our amalu salih, any and all kinds that they are. May Allah ta'ala grant us tawfiq to increase them in their quantity, to increase them in their quality, to increase our effort in them, in doing them, in being regular in them, being aware throughout them. And may Allah ta'ala enable all of us that we can feel Allah ta'ala more. We can feel Him more in our ibadat, and we can remember Him more in our ibadat and throughout the day and throughout the night. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. سبحان ربي الوهاب اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك إيمانا كاملا ويقينا صادقا ورزقا واسعا وقلبا خاشعا ولسانا ذاكرا ورزقا حلالا طيبا وتوبة قبل الموت وراحة عند الموت ومغفرة ورحمة بعد الموت والعفو عند الحساب والفوز بالجنة والنجاة من النار برحمتك يا عزيز يا غفار. رب زدني علما والحقني بالصالحين. اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعبادك الصالحون، ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعبادك الصالحون، وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله تعالى على حبيبه خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.